Hi guys, Cheryl Livingston
Laura
with my
Hayes.
friend, and we are here today to introduce you to our next episode of AAC Innovations. And this time, um, Laura got the pleasure, she snuck up on me and took care of it all by herself, of doing an interview with Kim Rankin, who is a very special person in our world because we follow her site, Hold My Words, on Facebook, where I have to say I'm a groupie. I have to say that. I follow them all the time. And she is a parent. Kim is a parent of a little boy, Nathaniel, and he uses AAC. And Laura and Kim talk about how that all came to be and how their journey has gone so far. And I have to say, they have been very successful.
Yes, she is a wealth of wisdom. We love having the opportunity and just the pleasure of her expertise and her background. But when you think about being a parent of any child with a disability, it is a whole different can of worms. I have a sister with a disability, and so I have some experience with it, but it's not quite the same as being a parent. So we really hope that this episode brings to light some of the things that parents acknowledge and struggle with, and just that opportunity to carry over AAC at home. We hear that so much with staff, like how can we get it to carry over at home, or we're just not seeing the carryover at home, and how can we get parent buy-in? So hopefully there will be some opportunity for ideas and supports that you can take out of this episode to your families, particularly those that are new on the journey or those that are struggling. In the meantime, we just wanted to share a couple fun finds. Cheryl, I know you had a really good one.
Well, I'm going to share my screen. Speaking of supporting parents, I want to make sure that it moves when you change up. We make sure we have resources for our parents that are easy for them just to pick up and go. This is aaccommunicare.com. You can see that up here at the top. And they have a section called enrichment activities. So as I scroll down, you can see that they've got all kinds of different headings here, but it just, as you click on those headings, you just keep scrolling here. They have very easy to follow instructions on playing games. So as far as here's the game, guess who? And then here's things you might say. So I love the fact that they just right there, quick and easy. They've helped anybody engage with a student as far as modeling what they could be saying or encouraging what the student, might want to be saying. So trouble, hungry hippos, it just goes on and on, even just playing charades. So then if you keep going all the way down, then
And
they actually
those made up games too are really great too, right? Because if you don't have to go out and buy a game, like I played made up games with my son Wesley all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's like, I spy. How many times have all of us played, especially in the car? I spy with my little eye. But yeah, no, you're definitely right. Just, nothing you have to purchase. And then some books, that just they were talking about in general, supporting book reading. And then as you go on down, like they've got some communication boards already set up that you could use, and some that we are very familiar with Lamp Words for Life, ProLocal to Go, Unity. So it's just, tons and tons when we're outside swinging. So I love the fact that it's just all easy to see, easy to find. I highly recommend it for all of us. But like I said, I see parents really being able to feel comfortable navigating this site.
Yeah, so if you aren't following the video, if you're just listening to the audio, it's AAC Communicare. So COMMUNICARE.com. So AACcommunicare.com. And then, like Cheryl said, you can go to those enrichment activities for all those ideas. And I even like at the beginning, it talks about if your parents are just getting started, some of those household activities that they're already incorporating into their day, just because it can be so overwhelming. We'll talk about that with our interview, but it can be very overwhelming for parents to try to add one more thing when you're just trying to get the nitty-gritty stuff done. And so
life in general is busy, and then we're asking them to do a little bit more. I love too on this side, just before I leave it here, is like, middle school, they had pre-K and elementary, middle school, and then high school. So if we click on this one, they're just going to show us that, maybe no, print in English. maybe I'll try that. And it also has Spanish there too, if you didn't know. It's just a real quick handout that's, even maybe games that are a little bit more oriented towards older kids. So I want to point out that it's sometimes we have a tendency to find really cool stuff, but it's for the younger kids. And this is something that you could easily differentiate by their ages.
Love it.
So,
Love it.
No, it's cool. I always think when I find these kinds of things, it's like, jackpot! Oh my gosh, there's all kinds of cool stuff. So I get very excited.
Well, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? It's already all right there for you.
No. And sometimes I don't even think of all these things on the wheel. So it helps.
Right. And when you're busy, again, doing the nitty gritty, you just want to.
Different time. You said, what kinds of games? Well, right now at my house, there's not a whole lot of games going on, It's kind of
right.
But Laura's house has got lots of good games. So.
More toys, and oh man, just after the holidays too, we had so many toys, so many new things, which made me kind of go back and rethink when I was looking and thinking about both sides of being a parent and supporting someone with a disability. I was thinking about just things in general, and I found this really, really great quote. So it's a fun find in the sense that it's just a little bit of an inspirational quote, and I just wanted to quickly share it on the screen. It just says, "Remember to take care of yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup." And that's true on so many levels, in the sense that we want to pour into our students, we want to pour into our children, and if we don't take care of what we need to take care of for ourselves, it doesn't go well. How many times, when your kid's having a meltdown and you escalate, do they escalate, right? It's always like, you stay calm when your kid is not, because that is what's going to help them get to a point where they can be more prepared to talk about it or move forward.
And we talk about also taking care of ourselves. I think the time that you're enjoying, like Laura said, sometimes it's not fun, but when you are enjoying just sitting and cuddling, how much communication could we be doing during those times too? So I worry that sometimes we make it sound like we need them to work at modeling or work at teaching their kids and the stuff. I'm going to take a step back and say, no, just make it when you're enjoying being with them. Simplify your language, point out those core words that are just coming up over and over, and make it more of a, like I said, it's helping you. It's filling your cup because you're enjoying it, and they're enjoying it because they're spending their time with you. So don't make it work. Make it about the good times.
Yeah, and we talk about thinking back to our podcast episode on our AAC top 10 tips, like, when you're struggling with a student or you're struggling with AAC at home, how can you make it, what's in your control? How can you be a good communication partner? Because so often, kids can get dysregulated for whatever reason. My son Wesley was dysregulated just from the change in schedule over the last few weeks. And so thinking about, what does that look like? I'm, for those of you who don't know, I'm pregnant and we'll be having another baby. So thinking about that transition and what that's going to look like for our family and like how it's going to affect him. So thinking about what is in my control, what can I do to support him by supporting myself and being a good modeler and being a good communication partner. And the same rules apply for somebody who's learning AAC, is what can we control? So it's not about the device, it's not about the system, it's not about the kids stimming, it's not about, communication breakdown. Like that's all out of our control, right? What's in our control is, can we make that social connection? Can we be a good communication partner? Can we model more? Can we take off the demands that are in place so that we know we're just inputting and giving lots and lots of input? So I thought the quote was really pertinent and super applicable in times when we're struggling.
And we may need to bring that one up over and over, because I think we all need to be reminded. And it's just, we're busy. So I think things get in the way, and we, as teachers, parents, mothers, we have a tendency to put everything ahead of ourselves. So if anything, can we do a segment on massages or something, Mark?
In the time of COVID, it might be a little tricky, but
that's right. Never mind.
Relaxation techniques, like quick, maybe
yoga.
Quick.
We could do yoga.
Yeah, or quick 30-second mantras that you can instill in yourself. Right,
yeah.
right. So without further ado, let's head over to our interview with Kim, and see what she has to say, because like I said, she's just a wonderful mind, a wonderful mother, and a wonderful AAC guru and
she has shared so much with all of us. I'm just so thankful for how much time she gives us, because this is her life. This isn't something she's created. This is her life, but yet she takes time to share. So that's very important.
And she's known on the national platform. We'll talk about that. She's spoken internationally and nationally, but she is local. She's a local parent. So you may, if you one day you see her around, definitely stop and say hi. And especially her. Right. Once COVID is all done, we don't have the social distance. So, all right, here's our interview with Kim Rankin. Hi, everyone. This is Laura Hayes from AAC Innovations, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming Kim Rankin. She is an educator, an advocate, and a parent of a little buddy of mine that I've known for a while now, Nathaniel, who uses AAC, and she has a wealth of experience and knowledge in the field of education. She is the author of the Facebook group Hold My Words and her own self-proclaimed blog, Kim Rankin Writings and Reflections, that highlights many times the use of AAC in their home and just their journey. And she's presented nationally at many AAC conferences, and we are just so excited to have her here today. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Laura.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I am good. I'm just living the COVID dream. When this airs, it will be 2021. So I'm so happy that we're moving past it and hopefully getting back on the track to normalcy.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about just your background. We were, just talking. I feel like you could write a novel about your background and just your experience, not just with AAC, but just with the world in general. But for our listeners, can you tell us a little bit about how you and Nathaniel came into the world of augmentative alternative communication, and maybe just a little bit about your experience before then?
Sure. So I had no AAC experience before Nathaniel. I probably knew of Stephen Hawking and knew he used a computer to talk, but that was the extent. That being said, I come from a family of scientists and mathematicians, and so having technology as a solution or a tool is not a foreign concept to our family. That was kind of, part of our family culture is that computers and iPads and all that they're just tools to use. So I also had some formal training and took master's level courses in English. And so I had taken like linguistics and grammar because I am a writer. And so that was part of my formal training for writing. So that was my experience coming into being Nathaniel's adoptive mom. We got a recommendation or a referral for an AAC evaluation at the Children's Hospital when he was 12 months old by his neurologist. And so it was pretty clear early on that he wasn't going to have use of his vocal cords. And so there was no waiting for, will he get speech? Will he not get speech? Like some families have to kind of walk that line. We didn't have to think through that. And so, right from the get-go, his medical team was on top of the fact that he was going to need an alternative communication system. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was kind of where our journey started, was at the hospital. And I remember thinking, because we had an informal conversation, which we can talk about, but he then had his evaluation, and I remember thinking, oh man, looking at the date of birth on my chart when I pre-read it, I was like, oh right, yeah, okay, this is really young. Like, this is the youngest one I've ever had. And then you came in and I was like, this is the smartest, most educated, well-prepared mom I've ever had at a first evaluation as well. It was mind-blowingly exciting.
Yeah, I think we had done some very preliminary communication things with First Steps. And so I think I had brought everything we had been doing with First Steps into that eval and was like, okay, help me. This is, I just remember carrying a big
binder.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But I want to say he had over 200 signs that you were exposing him to, or he had learned at that point. Like he was rocking and rolling and was like ready for something robust. It was really exciting to watch.
Yeah. Yep.
So as far as your journey from that point forward, you came in, I know you've spoken about this part of the journey, on several of your conferences, but for listeners who don't know, you came in, you were doing kind of some sign language and some stuff with first steps that was a little bit more mid-text and Big Macs and some things, and it wasn't necessarily going as smoothly as it could have. So how did that shift?
So we shifted away from first steps to private clinic as after our AAC eval. I think that was actually one of the recommendations at the eval, was to find a therapist that had a little bit more knowledge in AAC than what we were experiencing through first steps. And so we connected with a private therapist through a private clinic that had some understanding of LAMP and some understanding of AAC because of that. And just started right in with, I remember one of the things she did, she closed every time, and Nathaniel loved this. So she came into our home and did early intervention type therapy in our home through a private clinic. And she had this folder that had nursery rhymes, and he would take the card off the folder and she would sing the nursery rhyme to him. And he just loved that. And so that was, just starting to learn that exchange. You do this, you take this card, and then I'll, you get something, or you get a reaction from that. And so then we decided together, that therapist and I decided together, to go ahead and try a robust system on an iPad ourselves. And so we made that purchase ourselves and just started in using, go and stop and some of the core vocabulary. Because I had that AAC eval so early, I was already plugged into things to read online, and the therapist that we were working with taught me about core vocabulary and things like that. So probably by 20 months, we were already focusing on teaching the meaning of core vocabulary words using a robust system. And like that would, for us, would look like putting him in his stroller and giving him his device, and then he would do go and stop. Because Nathaniel wasn't orally eating at that time, we couldn't base any of his therapies on food, which is often like a lot of people do. And so that was a little bit of a stumbling point, but that was, we were at 20 months, we were using a robust voice output device and teaching core vocabulary with that device. Even though we hadn't quite mastered the whole PEC system, we kind of just jumped into the robust system, high-tech system.
And I know a lot of our listeners are familiar with core vocabulary, but if you're new to the podcast, or if you're a parent who's listening, just know that core vocabulary is really important, because it's those 80% of the words that we use throughout all activities throughout our day. So even as adults, we use words like go and stop. We don't use words like coffee or cappuccino very often, as important as they are to us. We don't use them throughout our whole day. We do use those words. So focusing on those words for kids that are developing language is going to be incredibly beneficial and functional and helpful. So it was a really good place to start. Now, you guys decided on Speak for Yourself, correct? And we're talking about what, 7 or 8 years ago now. So 7, I guess 6 or 7 years ago, to put him at 20 months, because he's now 8, and I can't believe he's 8. My gosh, I can't believe he's 8. He's just ginormous. Like, I can't believe my son is almost 3, but I can't believe Nathaniel is almost 8. So thinking about how you guys decided on Speak for Yourself, do you remember back when you were you looking at different apps? How did you decide on that?
Right. So this was a very parent-led journey, obviously. I came into like you said, I came into the eval, kind of with way too much thoughts and info. But I picked Speak for Yourself. I asked for it. I was the one that had researched and asked for it. Number one, it seemed very parent friendly. There was a user group on Facebook that I had followed that with the actual app developer participated in that daily. And so you could ask her questions and, troubleshoot problems that you were having. So I really liked that, because I wasn't going to be the kind of person that was like, oh yeah, I'll wait 6 weeks for the rep to come in town. Like, I just knew with my having homeschooled my kids for so many years, I was just going to be a little bit more proactive maybe than being content to say like, oh yeah, sure, get with me in a month or something like that. Just knowing myself, that was a thing. And then it's also having taken linguistics class, having watched 7 children, our 7 older children, kind of learn to talk and walked them through the process of learning to talk all the way up through like writing their college admission essays. I knew a lot informally about language acquisition for children. And Speak for Yourself just seemed to make sense to me that it might take longer for him to put together a phrase like, I want to watch a movie. We might not get there as fast as if he had a system that had one button and said, I want to watch a movie. But it seemed to me that it was going to be long-term offer him the greatest amount of words and the greatest amount the most natural way of learning language, that it's little bits and pieces called words that then go together with phrases and then go together in sentences. And it was a shot in the dark. I mean, I remember talking with Rebecca, our SLP at the time, and she's like, if it doesn't work, we'll try something else, or we'll go back down to the hospital and see what they recommend. Like we're not locking ourselves into this forever. Ironically, it is still the system we use. So, it's.
Well, and I still think that Nathaniel is so bright. He could have picked up any system that he would have touched, especially with your support. But, I think you make a good point. At the time, Speak for Yourself had a fairly large group, a support group, and that makes a huge difference. Now, I feel like all the companies have beefed up their social networking and their social supports, especially for parents, knowing that is so crucial for kids that are learning language to develop AAC and to have a support group to bounce ideas off of. We've connected both, I know, with Julie Tompkins out at St. Louis ARC, who has a support group that, is it quarterly that it runs now?
Yes.
That runs quarterly. So if you're looking for more parent supports, that's a great resource to tap into, just to bounce ideas. And those are all different systems. So it's helpful, I think, to have networking within the same system, right? Because it's the same language. If there's technical issues, you can reach out. Like you mentioned, the apps, a lot of the companies do have apps, vendors that can support technical issues, or they have online supports. But just having that where are you at, where are you going, how what does this look like, that's so crucial. But also having outside of your own language system, just what are you guys doing in the day-to-day, how does it work? So yeah, I think that's a good point to bring up for both families and staff to consider when you're looking at systems. When you guys had your device, and I wondered when you were talking, how long were you modeling language for Nathaniel? Because we talk about typical language development, and we talk that it takes years for someone to be exposed to that language. How long did you feel like you were doing that with him before he really started to express himself spontaneously?
Oh gosh, it's hard to remember back
I know.
then. I remember, honestly, his first spontaneous utterance using the device was a 2-word utterance, which is so funny. He said, "read book." But I think, I guess I would say we still model far more than he uses it spontaneously. Like I don't know that I feel like we've ever hit that point where we're like, oh, we don't need to model. Definitely not there yet. Because now I'm modeling like 5-word utterances instead of 1 or 2-word utterances. But I think probably within 3 to 4 months, he was using it, especially when we set up very specific things to encourage him to use it, like a brother hiding behind the wall of the bedroom, and we were maybe working on the word get, and he would we'd want him to say like, "Get George," his little stuffed animal, Curious George, and then the brother would jump out and have Curious George. Those kinds of things he picked up right away, and started using. So yeah, I mean, our success was kind of built in and layered with our work. And so that kept motivating us that this is working. Let's keep this system. Let's keep, going. So
I even think that point is important, Kim, because I think that, in one of my classes where we talk about aided language input or modeling, we talk about how there should really be that 4-to-1 ratio, sometimes as high as 6-to-1, if you're just getting started, where you're touching the device and the student or the child is just absorbing that information and knowing that doesn't stop once they start saying a few things, especially like those basic wants and needs. Like, you have to keep going. You have to continue to expand if you want them to be an independent, novel communicator.
Right. And I think now it's happening with my grandchildren, but at the time I did have those other kids, having parented those other kids, that experience of knowing, like, for instance, I didn't know what stimming was. Like, someone had to explain to me what stimming was, because when Nathaniel was at this stage where he was saying, please, 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 I didn't perceive that as stimming. I perceive that as like my 18-month-old granddaughter, who right now has such a limited vocabulary that when she really wants that banana, she doesn't say, but I really want the banana, Grandma. She says, please, 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 please. That's her capability with language right now. And so she's just going to use it a little more forcefully, a little more loud, a louder, maybe screaming please instead of just saying please. But anyway, it just didn't, some of those things never like seemed red flags to me, or I just kind of worked through them as a mom. I would have with my speaking children, because it just seemed natural. Like, please is the only word he's really comfortable using today. He's not stimming on this. He's just trying to be forceful.
Well, and using it for a different function, right? Like our kids babble when they're very early on learners too. Like, they are going to babble for different purposes. So I was just talking to someone yesterday about this. It's more important to watch what a child does after they activate a symbol on a device than it is before, or what they've actually activated. So, sometimes they correlate. You say please, you mean please. Sometimes, please is actually like, Mom, come over here. Like, I want attention right now. And you'll know that because they're going to look at you. They're going to look at what they want. They're going to do something. So I always encourage staff that think that someone's stimming. Well, what are they doing right after they hit that button or they say that word? Is it that they're listening for the word? Are they trying to self-teach? Are they babbling? Like, are they looking to something? Are they using it for a different purpose? Those all, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So now, he's 8. What does your routine look like for Nathaniel at home?
Yeah. So, it's just really built into our life. I don't know very often that we're past the stage where, like, where are his words? The words are just always with us. We're starting to see him, he's very committed to, like, bring my words kind of thing, from room to room or place, going outside or whatever. We do still have parking spots in each room that are used less and less because he has them closer to him than the parking spot, but we do have designated places that if he has left his words and we're moving to a new room, like, I'll grab them and I'll put them in the parking spot in the new room so that he knows that they're there and available. I did a series last February on my blog about AAC around the house, and I talked about using core words, but also low-tech aids. So we put things like, can I have, on the refrigerator. And so that way when he would go to open the refrigerator, Nathaniel's very self-sufficient. Like, he would rather go open the refrigerator and get out a full gallon of milk and try to pour it than use his device to say, can I have milk? So those words were sort of prompt to me that instead of saying no, use that as a teaching moment and get the device and say, can I have, and model that for him. So we have different, like, I think they put 8 up there. I would say we have 8 to 10 places around our house that were just kind of struggle points for us, where we were hoping he would use a little more vocabulary and a little more use of his device, and he wasn't. The back door is one of them, and we have the word stop, I go, just as a reminder, like, he cannot leave the house, without telling us that he's going outside. So we have those in place. We have low tech, the front page of his device, laminated around all the sinks in the bathtub, the shower. So that's available. We have one just outside. So if we're doing water play, we can, it's in the outside toy box. We can grab that. So yeah, that's kind of what our setup looks like. We still work on 5 to 7 words a week. That was something that I learned at the Children's Hospital, to pick 5 to 7 words a week to work on. And so every day we will practice the motor plan for those. And then I kind of isolate 1 word per day that I'm going to try to model that word a little extra that day. So, that's that, and that's printed. I plan that a month at a time and put it on the refrigerator. And so my husband can also see, like, what's the word of the day kind of thing.
I think that's so helpful, because I think families get overwhelmed thinking that they have to model every single thing, and even staff, like, they think they have to model every single thing, and really, like, just focus on 1 word and just make that your target. And, I'm sure you probably feel a little bit more natural doing it now than you did 5 years ago. We're finding those words and incorporating them into your day-to-day interactions. But
yeah,
starting
I think
simple.
it came much more natural to me, and it's been insightful to watch my husband process through being an AAC user and support person and partner for Nathaniel, because I think his response is probably a more typical parent response. And, he needs those low-tech visuals around the house, and he needs that list on the refrigerator of, these are the words we want to focus on this week. And those are so helpful. And in fact, in October, I didn't create that month calendar. And, by the 15th, he's like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be modeling. Like, would you put that list on the refrigerator? And it just helped narrow things for him. Like, you don't have to model everything, just focus on this right now, so.
But at least that was a good test. He passed, right? Like, oh yeah, you're checking it. Okay, good job. Oh, I love that. And having dads teach their sons is just a whole different experience too. Their bond, and I'm sure Nathaniel just gets such a kick out of interacting with him.
Yeah, well, Rich is much slower than I am, or Nathaniel even is, and so at dinner time, if Rich is modeling something, like, Nathaniel will brush his hand away and finish the sentence because he knows where the words are. It's pretty cute.
That's fantastic. Oh my gosh. And all these stories you're describing, like, I see my son in it too. Like, it's so fun to, like, he's just doing typical things, right? Like, it is 100% typical to have a kid try to go into a refrigerator and grab a big gallon of milk. Be like, I don't need you guys. Have to set up those social boundaries of saying, this is what this means, and you can't just run outside. You can't just go into the refrigerator.
Right.
So we talked a little bit about what things look like at home. What about your community supports? What has that looked like for you historically and currently?
Sure. So you've mentioned a couple of them. So we met at the Children's Hospital, and we did therapy, both like the quarterly or every 6-month checkups with the AAC team at the hospital there. And we went to, like, every other week when our community-based therapist from the private clinic was on maternity leave. And so we've done community-based at home. We've done community-based, at a private clinic. We've done the hospital setting. We ran into an interesting situation at the hospital where we felt like Nathaniel was experiencing a lot of PTSD because it was the same location. He was getting therapy at the same location where he was having some pretty negative medical experiences. And so we left there and went to Treehouse. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Treehouse.
I've heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, they're way out, maybe in Wentzville. I'm not sure. But they did AAC therapy on horseback. And it was the best break for us from anything that looked like therapy at all for Nathaniel. This kiddo has had all 3 disciplines once a week since the first week he was in the hospital, like since the NICU. So we really have to be careful about giving him some breaks and not, like, over therapizing him. I don't think that's a word, but
I think I've used it before. I think it counts.
My vocabulary. So anyway, that equine-based therapy was just fantastic for him. He was outside, he was in a barn. It would look like using his words in a very normal daily activity. So that was super. We did that almost a year. And then that therapist went on maternity leave. So often our therapists going on maternity leave or needing to make a life change, like to take care of their own children, is when we make changes. So yeah, I think we've done pretty much every setting. We just recently finished a semester with the SLU, Speech, Language, and Hearing Clinic. That was, with COVID, we had a hard time. Our therapists needed to take time for their own families. And so we had like 3 different therapists in 3 months, and kind of settled at SLU was a good fit for this last semester. So we've also done, where we've had clinicians and students who are still in the process of becoming SLPs work with Nathaniel. So quite a variety of options that we've tried, and all of them have fit and been what we needed at that time. I mean, they've all been very helpful at that time. And then you mentioned the support group with Julie. We do participate in that. And then even just like the little online community that I formed with Hold My Words, like that's extremely motivating to know that like people are watching our journey, and to know like that motivates us to keep going too. So that is a support to us, even though it looks like something we're doing for other people, it actually is a support for us too.
And then the other one I was thinking of, it's maybe not going to be as close of a community support, but just like an AAC support, is we've talked about how Karen Erickson is so like wonderful and just a wealth of knowledge, and you've heard from her proteges and gotten support tips and resources from them as well.
Yeah, I have been very fortunate, and I'm not quite sure how this has opened up, but it seems like the national AAC gurus have kind of just taken me under their wing and supported me in the process. Maybe never provided direct therapy for Nathaniel, but we had a season where Carol Zangari and I talked on the phone regularly about incorporating AAC in the homeschool setting and what that looks like. It was right around the release of her book, Tell Me AAC in the Preschool Classroom. And she was just wanting to know, like, can this be implemented at home? And so it was a win-win relationship, because she was getting information from me and I was getting, Carol Zangari on the phone, which is like incredible. And so, yeah, I've really been fortunate that, I've had this opportunity in the AAC community, because I don't have the professional credentials to warrant conversations with these people. So
I know, but you're an honorary. I would consider you an honorary with everything that you've experienced and your wealth of knowledge. So it doesn't surprise me at all that you have these individuals at your fingertips, because it exudes from you.
Well, thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Cheryl Livingston with AAC Innovations, and this week we're talking about parent resources, and I want to give you a little bit of a visual tour of some of the items that are on that list that we shared. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to go to the list, AAC parent groups to follow. Some of these are on Facebook and some of them are YouTube sites or websites. So I'm going to just do a couple, give you a visual to go along with the flyer. We're going to start with the first one, Hold My Words, Kim Rankin. She's mother to Nathaniel, who uses an AAC system. And this is her site, Hold My Words. This is on Facebook. Kim's doing a very nice job of learning and sharing as we go. So she has been learning about Nathaniel and how he can benefit from AAC, and then she puts it into a blog post or shares it on Facebook, and we're all benefiting from the knowledge that she's gaining. She's an excellent writer and puts it all into words that, like I said, will help us benefit from her experience. So these are just her most recent ones that she's added. So I encourage you to check it out. Like I said, she's been doing this for a while now, so you can go through and find out all kinds of things that Nathaniel has learned across communication resources that he has. She did a nice job of putting together a whole list of games and books that have core words, and putting it together so that they would share information across a couple of different things of interest, nice stories about their adventures. Another one I want to talk about is We Speak Pod, and that's Karen Owens, and she has 3 children that are using OGCOM. Some of them use low tech, some of them use high tech. This is a nice example of photos that she shares where they've emulated a size device up to the TV screen so everybody's seeing it. Actually, that's not size device, that's a book. Size got the electronic device. But anyway, you can see all the different visual supports in their house. So there's videos to watch of her working with the kids. All right. And the next one is called AAC Family Fun. And again, this is a parent who is sharing things that she has created, things she's found. And she's done a nice job of giving us songs each month for karaoke using core words. Here's the December one. Words of the month. So these have been really fun to follow. Another YouTube site is called Cody's Life. And this is a young lady who is using OGCOM, and she's a typical teenager. She's documenting what kinds of things she likes to do and things she's been involved with as, again, a teenager, but her peers, things that they are working on. But she's, again, using OGCOM. And in fact, they did a Talking with Tech episode. So that's her and her mom on one of the videos explaining to a lot of other people about, what's involved with learning to use assistive technology. So those are just a few of the many that are out there. And I hope that this will inspire you to take some time and check them out.
Well, guys, thank you for listening to part 1 of the interview. There's part 2 still to come. Laura and Kim had so much to talk about. We didn't want to cut them short, so we'd rather spread it out so you guys can have a chance to really get some more information. So thanks for sticking around. We'll see you soon.